Are you ready to listen to my dad Joe and Uncle Justin talk about sports? Now on with the show!
The Joe Mays J-Raff Show is brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop, which have been serving the greater West Lawn area delicious food for over 70 years. You are listening to the Joe Mays J-Raff Show.
Boring.
A weekly podcast about sports since 2011.
Don't you ever get tired of being wrong all the time?
With a focus on football.
36-yard line of Philly, shotgun snap to Hurts, dropping back, only one person rushing, Hurts looking, standing still, winding up, long pass that lands at the 20, no one is there, zeros on the clock, it's over, the Chiefs have won, Super Bowl 57 on a game-winning field goal, trailing at 10. At the halftime stop, 24-14, they go on to win 38-35. What a game.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays J-Raff Show, coming to you loud and clear this week, hopefully. If not, I'll be getting a call any minute now, but I'm fairly certain this is working the way it should be. Justin and I are here to talk about everything that has happened so far in Week 12 of the 2023 NFL season. Let me bring Justin, my co-host, in right now. Mr. Raffoff here. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. Best holiday of the season, right?
I'm not, you know what? I don't debate you on that because I do tell everyone that Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday of the year.
That is true.
Because it is my favorite meal. I just actually finished the last of our leftovers today, and I texted a picture to my mom because she's the one that made them for us, and I just said I'm looking forward to this, but also makes me a little disappointed because now I got to wait, 361 days or something, an extra day, mind you, actually a bunch of extra days. Because of the leap year in 2024, it is pushing Thanksgiving to the farthest date on the calendar. It should have been the closest
28th
date on the calendar. It would have been the 22nd this coming year, but because it's a leap year, it pushes it to the 28th. So that's terrible. That's one way to look into the new year, 2024, that it's not playing out for people who love Thanksgiving and the Christmas season, people who wait for Thanksgiving to start the Christmas season. Now everything gets pushed back. So it's just terrible all around. But the food is my favorite. It's my favorite holiday because it's right in the middle of the best time of the year. October, November, December is by far the greatest 3-month stretch ever.
So not
ever.
not to steal
not debatable.
Not to steal your thunder, but those 3 months are a great season, but the best month is July.
You're gonna hit me with July, And I saw one of the Instagram accounts I follow send a poll and these they have chats now. If you have enough followers, you can have these chats, and I just get thrown into these things. I'm like, whatever, sure. And one of them was posed what's the best month? And December was running away with it as it should, but July was second. I was like, no, we cannot have that. We cannot let Justin know that that's what's happening. But
I feel like that's our movie thing a few years ago where yours will win, but it's closer than you would like it to be.
Then yes, that was a while ago now. Wow, that was 7 years ago, I think.
I have no idea. It was a long time ago.
But yeah, there were some movies that were going up against each other. I was like, how does this one not win? I mean, most of them ended up winning, but that's good. So yeah, welcome to episode 386 of the Joe Mays J-Raff Show. We're going to talk pro football here. A lot of interesting events. I don't know. Some of the games weren't exactly the best on the schedule. It was
there were a lot of close games, but not necessarily good games.
And yet somehow the Thanksgiving game still got a huge audience, which just reiterates how the NFL is king. We will dive into those 3 games, the first ever Black Friday game, and then the slate of games this afternoon, this evening. But let's first pull up our information here. I want to put up the contact information if you would like to interact with us. You can find us across social media, Joe Mays and J-Raff. Send us an email to the Mays Sandwich Shop email inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. And we do want to thank our sponsor, Mays Sandwich Shop, and my dad, Bill, for their support since the beginning. Justin, we've been doing this for almost 13 years now, which is
that's
kind
crazy.
of bonkers, yeah, to think about it. But pro football has kind of become our thing by and large. So,
along with 44 million that were watching the Cowboys game on Thursday.
It's a good thing. That's why we always wait till late Sunday night to do our show, so that we're not taking away from multiple games. You know, we don't ever step on the Super Bowl because we don't want to take away from what the NFL is putting out there.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, huge numbers on Thanksgiving. I sent that to you on when it came out on Friday or Saturday.
That's after the most watched Monday night game since 1996.
Yeah, something like that.
So you throw that in. So in the same like 6-day period, there's going to be a ton of big ratings games.
Yes, huge.
Now, and again, not. I'm being Eagles centric in that the Eagles have had a couple of those this year. The Eagles Cowboys was a huge rated game.
Well, before the Thanksgiving games, they had the top 3.
The Eagles Bills may be big at the end, but maybe not for the whole thing because it wasn't a nationally televised game.
Right.
It was just like. Now, a lot of the big population centers outside of basically the western third of the country were in on the Eagles game, but it wasn't a nationally televised game, so you're not going to see the crazy numbers.
40 million plus.
Right. But, man, yeah, just insane numbers. Insane numbers.
Trying to pull them up here for sure. See if this is like something I can sort or week 10, week 11. So yeah, week 11 Monday Night Football was 28.96 million, which is just bananas. Like that is something special to get that many people watching that game. Nearly 29 million for Eagles Chiefs, highest for Monday Night Football since 1996. Over 41 million watched Cowboys rout of Washington, just shy of record.
Well, and just think about this. Never have people had more options to not watch.
Right, because of cord cutting and streaming, and it's happening on a holiday where there's a lot of travel involved, but it still works its way into your routine.
Yeah.
I mean, football has always gone hand in hand with Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
I know the NBA is trying to do that with Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
It's not having the same impact, at least not yet. I
No,
mean, maybe the
no.
year-over-year returns are
Right.
getting better.
They get
I
good
don't
ratings,
know.
but it's not the same as
It's
football.
about a fifth-ish?
Probably.
A fourth to
Probably.
a fifth?
Probably. I would think if they get 10 million for a game. Now, again, sometimes the Christmas ones turn out to be great matchups on paper, but it doesn't work out that way. Sometimes you get like a crazy classic matchup, but you also in some years have had NFL games on Christmas, so that's going to cut into it a little bit. Not everyone, but you know what I mean. Like there's only so much. Like I know, like at my aunt's house on Christmas afternoon, if there's not an NFL game on, the NBA game will be on the TV. But if there's an NFL game on, the NFL game will be on the TV, unless the Sixers are playing. Like the Sixers over like a Chargers Raiders game in the middle of the afternoon on December, it would probably be the Sixers game on the TV then. But like any other NBA game is probably not going to make it over the NFL game.
So all these numbers that I've previously mentioned are coming from sportsmediawatch.com. Thursday's Washington-Dallas NFL Thanksgiving Day game averaged 41.44 million viewers on CBS per Nielsen Fast Nationals, trailing only Giants-Cowboys on Fox last year, which had 42.1 million, as the most watched Thanksgiving Day game on record. Overall, the Cowboys' 35-point win delivered the third largest regular season NFL audience on record, behind last year and a 1990 Giants-49ers game on Monday Night Football. So Giants-Cowboys on Fox last year was 42.1 million. That's the largest non-playoff, non-Super Bowl viewing game for the NFL. And like you said, with all the opportunities, there's other things out there. There's more ways to both watch and not watch at the same time. When you think about it, it's harder to watch traditionally because of people getting rid of cable, but there's more options now streaming. They bring it all together. The NFL still is king. So just huge numbers. Yeah, I just want to go down a little bit lower here as a one important one. Just celebrated its 30th anniversary this year. So apparently we're in the out-of-home era where you can watch games without being in a home. No Thanksgiving game had ever averaged more than 38.4 million, which was Dolphins-Cowboys in 1993. Thank you, Leon Lett, for always being the gift that keeps on giving here in my family, as I recall vividly watching that game in the basement of my grandparents' home with my dad.
Oh, I bet that was entertaining.
I was 8 at the time. I believe that's the first football season I can remember. At least the whole season. The first game I can remember watching on TV is the Super Bowl between the Bills and Redskins.
So I remember moments here and there, but yeah, it's early on. Early 90s are kind of where it starts to set in for me.
So just, bananas numbers for those Thanksgiving Day games. I feel like the first game was the one that didn't go as planned, as expected.
But
Lions-Packers, 29-22 Green Bay.
Maybe the most entertaining of the 3 games?
Yeah, it was the closest, but everyone's been riding high with Detroit, and now back-to-back weeks, despite winning one of them, they haven't looked great.
Well, they went at least over. They were 0 for 5 on 4th downs. I don't know if a crazy one happened late. It might have changed it or something, but like they were 0 for 5 on 4th downs, like through a big part of the game, and that's not a good sign. You might have one here and there, but like to go 0 for 5 is usually not indicative of good things for your team.
Right.
Well, and early in the game, Jared Goff looked like Jared Goff that got traded away from the Rams.
He has not looked great.
Now, he came back and had other moments in the game, and that happens. But it's just, I don't know. I think the Lions are very good. I think they're going to win the division. I think they'll be a contender in the NFC because I think they've got enough there. I think they're still building towards what they're going towards. You know what I mean?
And while Jared Goff has been serviceable and at times has looked really good, are we getting back to the point now where he's showing what he truly is by and large? And are they going to have an issue? Hey, maybe they do stick it out and win the NFC North, but are they going to be are they not going to win a game? Are they going to lose?
So here's the thing. I think the rest of the season and postseason are going to kind of dictate what they do. If they go and they win a couple playoff games, I think he buys himself more time in Detroit. I think if it kind of sputters and they don't, and paired with and they have the opportunity to upgrade, whatever that would mean, I think they might do it.
I guess we'll see. They haven't been playing great. I mean, I'm all for them. Really, in the NFC, that would be a team that I would be probably most excited to see make a run.
False.
I honestly, I feel like the Eagles, 49ers, and Cowboys are better than them.
I do too.
But if I have to pick between the 4 of them, I'm picking Detroit. It's the lovable loser mentality.
No, false.
I love Dan Campbell. I loved him when he was with Miami. He was the interim there, and I was like, man, it would be great if he got the job.
Like when he first went to Detroit, I thought because he was all that rah-rah, and they were not very good. And I'm like, it's
amazing what happens when you can be patient.
I'm like, this is not it. Like it just wore on me wrong. You know what I mean? But then they were patient, and it turned around.
Yeah, amazing what happens when you give a coach and a staff some time to work through the roster, get their systems in place. And now you have, remember how much they ridiculed Aaron Glenn a few years ago? And that may have been either Campbell's first year or even before Campbell took over. I believe they showed some just ridiculous stuff happening on Thanksgiving, and everyone was like trying to laugh him out of the city and out of the coaching ranks. Like, how ridiculous is Aaron Glenn's defense? Which makes me feel old because I remember Aaron Glenn being a defensive back.
Yeah.
For the Jets for sure. Now he's one of the better defensive coordinators in the NFL. But Campbell comes in, they give him some time, he turns it around, and now he's got an offensive coordinator who turned down head coaching offers or interviews to stay there because they thought they were building something, and they have, and they're much better, and it's great. They're hitting a little bit of a skid here now. Hopefully they can turn it around.
It happens, and you know what is important over the next. So we're through 12 weeks, right? So
Right,
over the next
11
6
games
weeks,
for most people.
over the next 6 weeks, you need to win enough, right? Win enough, and then get into a spot where you are like healthy, right? If you're hot and healthy come middle of January, you're in a good spot.
They are 8-3. They go to New Orleans this coming weekend, a week from now.
Got to win that one.
They go to Chicago.
Got to win that one.
They host Denver.
That's a tough one.
Now it's not a conference game though.
No.
So if you're gonna have a hiccup, that's the one that you want to have the hiccup, because then to close it out, their final 3 games are at Minnesota, at Dallas, host Minnesota. Those last 3 weeks could decide if they win the division.
Yeah.
Honestly, it could even decide, depending on what happens with the other 3 teams I mentioned from the NFC, the Eagles, the 49ers, and Cowboys, the division seeding. Eagles and Cowboys will be fighting for that East crown. 49ers likely to win the West. Lions or Vikings winning the North. It could figure out who's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So very important stretch for Detroit. They need to get right. They need to beat a struggling Saints team, beat a bad Bears team before they welcome Denver in on December 17th. So
I hope that's a big game. Like, that would be awesome.
yeah.
So here you go. And I don't know what the other games are that week. Could that be a game that gets flexed to Monday night?
Maybe. I don't know. Could be.
I want to see a game get flexed to Monday night, but I don't want it to be an Eagles game.
So I'm looking at I'm trying to. Here we go. Minnesota's remaining schedule. So they play the Bears tomorrow night at home. So that's a must-win game right there. They then go to Las Vegas.
They need to win, but not a pushover.
No, then they go to Cincinnati. So they got 2 AFC games back to back before 2 out of 3 with Detroit. And when Detroit is playing at Dallas, Minnesota is hosting Green Bay on New Year's Eve.
Wait, run through that one again.
So they host Chicago tomorrow night.
Yeah.
They then have 2 straight AFC road games at Las Vegas, at Cincinnati.
Okay.
Then their final 2 out of 3 are against Detroit. They host Detroit in week 16. They go to Detroit in week 18. In between there, the last game on New Year's Eve, kickoff at 8:20, Minnesota hosts Green Bay, which is now a huge game because Green Bay is trying to. I mean, I guess technically they probably could still win the division as well, but they're at least trying to get in as the 6th or 7th seed in the wild card.
That was a huge win for them.
It was a huge win for them.
And imagine if they're in a spot, if they were to beat Detroit, they'd have the tiebreaker with them because they would have beat them both times then.
Did Green Bay beat them both times?
No, but I'm saying they would because they beat them yesterday.
Right. But
Minnesota.
I'm talking about Minnesota, not
Detroit.
Detroit.
Yeah. Sorry,
No, because I think Detroit are beat. Didn't they beat Green Bay at Green Bay again?
I think
because
so,
they beat them
yes.
at the end of last year. So, let's talk Cowboys Commanders. Wasn't a great game. Dallas kind of steamrolled them, as they've been doing against the teams they should be beating.
It was, I say close. It wasn't real close, but it was a 2-score game for a little while.
It just ended up being
But you
a
could see it.
5-score
You
game.
could see it coming the whole time. You're just like, this is not. These teams are not on the same level, and you're watching, and Dak had all day to throw, and it's like, oh man, it's almost as if they traded away their 2 best pass rushers,
Right.
which they did. Which I don't blame them. Like I get that's where they are right now. Like that's fine, but you look at that team, they're missing something. Yeah, they are. And Dallas was just, you give any quarterback, I shouldn't say that. You give a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, and certainly Dak, time to throw like that, he's going to eat you alive. And he did. They could do whatever they wanted. And then the defense, when you get ahead big on them and you have to pass, look out, because that's where Dallas excels. When you are in known passing downs is not a place you want to be against that defense between the record-setting pick sixes or the sacks. You don't want to be in a must-pass situation against Dallas.
No, you do not.
Especially when you're Washington and give up a lot of sacks as long as you're not playing the Eagles.
The Cowboys are actually the Thursday night game this week. They get to
know.
do that back-to-back before having
I know, because then they have a long weekend
a long
going
layoff
into the
until
Eagles
hosting
again.
Philadelphia. So
The Eagles
Dallas
play 3 teams in a row that will have more rest than they do.
Dallas hosts Seattle this Thursday night. Then they host Philadelphia on December 10th. Go to Buffalo December 17th.
Go Bills.
Go to Miami
Go
on
Dolphins.
Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve dinner time. Just like last year, Dallas hosts Philadelphia on Christmas Eve. That dinner time game, 4:25 kickoff. And I just got to sit there and watch my dad, and then all the family and friends gathered around, all Eagles fans. But my dad came out on top of that one. So he was the loner. Now the entire family gets to watch my dad and me, my 2 favorite teams. I'm pretty sure I know who everyone else will be rooting for. That'll make me feel pretty good.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
I'm sitting there in my my Tua jersey, watching them play the Cowboys. Dolphins have a tough way to close, but we'll get to them shortly. So Dallas to Miami on Christmas Eve. Detroit to Dallas on December 30th, so a slightly short week there. That's a great Saturday game.
Yeah, go Lions.
Lions Cowboys December 30th, 8:15, and then Cowboys get Washington again to close the season. My dad sent me a few colorful emojis there.
I'm sure.
He let us know also that the high ratings on Thanksgiving was because it was America's team.
Okay.
All right, so then the late game was 49ers Seahawks.
I figured you got. Never mind. I'm gonna. Never mind.
49ers Seahawks was the late game on Thanksgiving. Going in, I was like, this is going to be Seattle. Or, sorry, this is going to be San Francisco all the way. And then it was.
Yeah.
Until like the third quarter. All of a sudden, Seattle started coming back. Now, it never really felt in doubt or anything for San Francisco. And they ended up pulling away again. But it just feels like, honestly, like, I don't buy into this at all. But I do feel at times that there's just, because probably the parity and because each team has, or all the teams have great players, there are these huge momentum swings, as you saw today in the Buffalo-Philadelphia game, that just feels scripted. Like it just,
especially because, and you've probably seen this.
And I don't buy into that at all.
This could be a whole episode. But like statistically speaking, momentum doesn't exist, right? Like, and
momentum in the sense that we're talking about in sports.
Right. Yes. Momentum. Yes, that exists.
Like there's a mathematical and scientific theory out there that says momentum absolutely exists.
Yes, but momentum, the figurative momentum that we speak.
It's a mental thing.
Absolutely. But they talk about, and I watched this thing and it drove me nuts. It specifically broke down like the hot hand in basketball, and it's that. Any like hot streak is just a statistical anomaly. Like it's part of the larger set that like, yes, like, if you're a good shooter or if you're this career shooter, you will make 8 in a row at some point. Now, again, there's a lot that could go into that, but yeah, when you look at these things, there's some of these shifts in these games are just unbelievable. And what's crazy is when you're watching it and you're like, oh no, that's going to change everything. And obviously it happens the most when you're like, or maybe you're just more sensitive to it when it's like your own team, like when it's your own team and you're rooting and you're just like, oh no, like we missed the extra point and we're only up, 3 now instead of 4, like something like that.
Updating everyone on the ongoing Sunday night football game, Baltimore at the LA Chargers. Chargers lead at 3-0 here, very close to the end of the first quarter.
I don't know if she's watching, but my mom was giving me a hard time. My dad and I, she said, the Eagles are so lucky. Like, the Ravens never get that lucky. And I'm like,
well, if momentum doesn't exist, luck certainly doesn't exist.
I want to say, the Ravens won Super Bowls with Trent Dilfer and Joe Flacco. Don't tell me they never get lucky.
Touche. So there was one thing I had said to you that I wanted to mention, but I was going to save it for the show. And you brought up the Broncos playing against Detroit, and could that game be flexed? Because all of a sudden that's become a pretty big game. I've never been a Broncos hater, I would
Oh,
say.
no,
It's
no,
always
yeah.
one of those teams that like I kind of liked.
Yeah.
They were in the AFC, so it was tough for me to fully cheer for them. But
Understandable.
Like, if Miami was out of the playoffs, or by and large for the last 25 years not in the playoffs, Denver's a team I can usually get behind. By the time Peyton Manning had gotten there, I was already, I had done my 180 on Peyton Manning. I didn't like Peyton Manning for a long time.
Absolutely.
And then things changed when he started to take himself not so serious. Just kind of loosened up and got himself out there without being in a football environment. It made me like him more. So like he went there, it's fine.
He's around to cut the meats. Cut the meats.
Exactly. And I was a huge Broncos fan in the mid to late '90s when they were playing Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl.
Oh, so you were anti-Favre even back then?
Oh yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
100%.
Oh my gosh.
Hated the
gosh.
Packers. Hated Brett Favre. That never changed.
Impressive.
So yeah, all this to say, I'm happy for, I'm whatever on Sean Payton. I don't have there's nothing that makes me for or against him. It's fine. I also was never really a Russell Wilson hater. I undersold him at the beginning, and then maybe oversold him a little bit once he was traded.
Understandable for anybody that's an NC State / Wisconsin quarterback for me to be like, hey, let's pump the brakes.
Considered undersized,
right?
It's fine. Like whatever. He had a terrible year last year.
Yeah.
Everyone said it would be better. It started off really bad, 1-5. They've now won 5 in a row, and they are 6-5. And the whole reason I went through all this is that no one can say anymore that the Dolphins haven't beaten a team with a winning record, and also did it by a score of 70-20.
Yes.
As I will remind everyone.
Yes.
So,
absolutely.
Now, would I trade that massive debacle on the Broncos' part against Miami for a win against one of the 3 games I would have liked the Dolphins to win this year, against Buffalo, Philadelphia, or Kansas City?
I'll give you Buffalo or Kansas City.
And I get another shot at both Dallas, which is one that I certainly want to see
yes.
Miami win, and then against Buffalo,
Merry
which
Christmas
I think is
indeed.
Week 17 for Miami.
Man, that could be an awesome game.
Yeah, so it's just the Dolphins so far. Like, obviously, I always want them to win, but there's always games that just feel a little bit more important because of my personal rooting interests.
Oh yeah,
and they haven't come out on top yet. Thankfully, there's 2 left, 2 big ones against Dallas and Buffalo. Yeah, we talked about this I think last week. Miami finished hosting Dallas on Christmas Eve, going to Baltimore on New Year's Eve, and then hosting Buffalo in the last week of the season. So those 3 games are ridiculous. I mentioned to you that now that Miami vanquished the Jets on Black Friday in the first ever NFL game on Black Friday, 34-13, Miami must win their next 3 games at Washington this week, hosting Tennessee. That's a Monday night game on December 11th. And then hosting the Jets on December 17th. Miami has to win those next 3 to get to 11-3.
So
because
here you
then
go.
they have Dallas, Baltimore, and Buffalo.
Miami being good could keep it in there, but and I don't know when the deadlines are, but could the Miami game get flexed out?
Oh, it's like 2 and I think it's at least 2.5 weeks ahead of time. So the deadline is in the next few days.
Right. I don't see it necessarily happening
because Tennessee's not having a great year.
Right, Tennessee's not great, but Miami is. So you want to get.
And it's been a long time since you could say that. Like Miami's made the playoffs in the last. They haven't won a playoff game since 2000, but they've been in the playoffs. Like they've had good seasons. 2008, 2016, last year. These are all 9, 10 win, 11 win seasons. It's just they haven't won a playoff game in any of those since then. Hopefully that drought ends this year. So I have a bone to pick with you, though, Justin.
Oh, gosh.
Not you specifically, just you as an Eagles fan.
No, that's fine.
There are 4 games that was keenly invested in this year with you and your Eagles.
Yeah.
You're 1-3 in those games in terms of what I care about.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No.
No. Sorry, I got this mixed. You're 2-2.
Okay.
Because you beat New England,
which you wanted.
Appreciate that.
Right. So that's
you ended up beating Buffalo. When I was thinking of this at the time, the Eagles were losing to Buffalo. Because I was like, I swear, if the only 2 Eagles losses this entire season are to the Jets and the Bills.
See, I was talking to myself too. I'm like, as much as it stinks, Lose to two AFC
Yeah, right,
teams,
exactly.
I'd be okay with that.
You lost to the Jets. How in the world do you lose to the
Zach
Jets?
Wilson in the Jets.
You beat the Bills and you beat the Patriots, but you beat the Dolphins. That was I wanted you to go 3-1 against the AFC East,
And they
you
did.
screwed up the Jets and Dolphins one though. You screwed it up. So that worked much more. That was better when you were losing to the Bills, which happened often, back and forth throughout both the entire game, including overtime.
Insane.
But yeah, so the Eagles pulled it out. We'll jump to. I don't really have much else to say about the Dolphins on Friday. I'm really bummed that Jalen Phillips tore his Achilles, which I saw happen live.
Yeah.
The exact same thing you could see with Aaron Rodgers.
Yep. You just see it.
You could see it pop and go up. It was disgusting. I feel terrible for him because he was having a fantastic year, and he battled through injuries at UCLA and Miami, Florida, and now it's one of the Dolphins' best defensive players. So it really sucks, but they got the win. They got to win their next 3 games to set up a crazy last 3 weeks for them that I already mentioned. If they get into that at 11-3,
they're looking good.
They're looking good, and honestly,
because the Bills already have 6 losses.
Well, right. If they get to 11-3, that means quite possibly they could clinch the division with a win over Dallas. Then they might have clinched it before that.
They may have it clinched before that.
Well, that's fine.
Because the Bills have a tough schedule coming up. Too. I need the Bills to win that Dallas game. Is what I need.
Yeah. So here's where I'm at with the Eagles. And no, this is not a green shirt for the Eagles.
Dude, I appreciate that you changed out of your red Christmas shirt to wear the Eagles green shirt. I appreciate that.
So
did your dad get that one for you?
No, I'm sure my mom did.
Okay.
The Eagles are 10-1.
Yeah.
Haven't had a bye yet. Oh, they had a bye
did.
yet. Yeah. Because it's week. I keep thinking it's week 11. No, it's week 12. So 10-1, best record in the NFL
by 2 games.
Up on everyone in the NFC by 2 games. NFC probably looking better than the AFC right now.
At the top.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but maybe not depth.
I'd say Eagles, 49ers, Cowboys, Lions. That's 4 solid teams there. And in the AFC, I don't know that anyone has really separated themselves. Kansas City won today, but that's to get to 8-3, which is what Miami is at, and that's what Jacksonville is at.
Right.
I don't think any of them.
Is that where the Ravens are too?
And I think.
I mean, they're playing now, so they might not be.
Yeah, right. Would this get them to 9-2?
I don't know. I don't know.
Should pull that up. Especially because Miami gets to play them again. I feel like Miami and Baltimore play all the time. No, the Ravens are 8-3, and they haven't had their bye yet. So this would actually move them into first place with a win against the Chargers. This is, I feel like, the moment where Baltimore begins to regress. Like they always have that hiccup. They start strong for a game or two, then they look terrible for a game or two, then they look great, and then something happens, and they start to fall apart. So losing to the Chargers, now it's a road game, so not as bad. But losing to the Chargers here, a Chargers team that is 4-6 and floundering, possibly gonna fire Brandon Staley. That would be a bad look for the Ravens to lose this game. Now, I know they just lost Mark Andrews, but their receivers were playing better, that they should be able to offset it. And people were talking about Lamar Jackson as a possible MVP candidate. You should be able to keep winning without Mark Andrews, especially when people talk about likely the other tight end. They have a lot of regard for him. Now, that's a touchdown right there. So, Baltimore just scored. Is that Zay Jones?
That is.
Or, sorry, Zay Flowers. I always do that. Zay Flowers gets the touchdown. So Baltimore, pending the extra point, will go up 7-3 on the Chargers. But what I was saying about the Eagles, 10-1, 2-game lead in the NFC, good chance, like the probability would be that they will win the division and be the number 1 seed if things hold. How about their schedule the rest of the way?
Brutal.
It's brutal? Okay.
Well,
I'll pull it
up. No. The next 3 games are brutal.
Okay.
So they play.
Oh, this is part of that stretch.
They play. Right. They're still in this stretch. So they've played the Dolphins. And actually, that wasn't part of the stretch, probably, technically. But they played Kansas City on Monday, this past Monday. They played the Bills today. They play So the Bills had extra rest. Now the Bills traveled, but the Bills had extra rest because the Eagles played on Monday night at Kansas City. But then the Niners have extra rest because they played on Thanksgiving. Now again, the Niners are coming east, I believe. But the Eagles host the Niners this coming week.
Yes, in
But
Philadelphia.
the Cowboys play this Thursday again, and then they play the Cowboys on extended rest next week, or the following week at Dallas, and then they play Seattle the week after that.
Yeah. All right. So it was.
So that 3 is going to be real tough, and then they end with Giants, Cardinals, Giants.
Right. So it was a 6-game stretch against playoff caliber teams,
Yes.
or at least preseason speaking, because honestly, Buffalo right now is struggling.
No, exactly.
No,
No,
no one sees them as a 5-6 team though. They almost won the game today.
I thought they were 6-6.
Do they not have a bye yet? You're right. They are 6-6, so no bye yet for Buffalo. But again,
But no one saw them at
one's
6-6.
like no one looks at them as a 6-6 team.
No.
And then 7 of 8 games. So they had the Dolphins game, but then they had Washington, which honestly played them really tough. But so 7 out of 8 teams.
That week 1 loss to the Jets might really come back to haunt them.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in those 8-game stretch, including the one with Washington sandwiched after Miami, the Eagles haven't lost because they lost to the Jets the week before the Dolphins game. Stupid, just terrible. Beat the Dolphins, beat Washington, beat Dallas, beat Kansas City, beat Buffalo. So now you get is this the biggest one on your schedule this year, or is the Dallas game still trumpet?
So
The 49ers game this coming week in week 13.
This one has been the big one. And I would say I would leave it there for me. I know a lot of Eagles fans are going to probably skip over this one and go to the next Dallas one. I'd leave it there for me just because I feel like if the Eagles win this next one, that next Dallas game might not actually mean anything to the Eagles because they would still be a game up on the Cowboys. So if the Eagles split the next 2 either way, I really like their chances to be the 1 seed in the NFC. And that's huge. Being that 1 is so big because that's the difference between the bye and not getting the bye. This one is also big just because to me, and again, I am 100% biased in this, but the unprovoked trash talk that came from San Francisco about that NFC Championship game, I don't. You know what I mean? It just seemed like where'd this come from that they feel they had to just you got your butt kicked. Now, did you lose your quarterback? Yeah. But guess what? You didn't block for him. Whose fault is that? It wasn't a cheap shot. You didn't block for him. You don't have another quarterback on your roster who could compete. Whose fault is that? Yours? I didn't see anybody feeling bad for the Eagles when Nick Foles had to go in and win us a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Is that the same thing? No. But have somebody on your roster other than your starting quarterback that you're not going to block for that is able to throw a forward pass. Feel free to do that. You know what I mean? That they're well, Christian McCaffrey was running all over him. All right, well then run the ball and your quarterback won't get hit in the arm. I don't know. That being said, the Niners are very good. The Niners are very good.
They had that weird swoon there when they lost to the Browns, Vikings, someone else. Right? It was three game skid, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, was it the Bengals before Burrow got hurt? I think that's what it was. I think they lost the Browns, Vikings, Bengals in 3 weeks or 3 out of 4 weeks, something like that. And now they've bounced back and they kind of look at the team at the beginning of the year. Right. It'll be interesting for sure. This upcoming 49ers at Eagles next Sunday.
If the Eagles won that game, right, that would give the Niners 4 losses on the season, and the Eagles would still only have 1.
Right.
And
head-to-head, you would have that tiebreaker, too.
With 5 games left.
Essentially, your biggest thret then becomes Dallas. As long as Dallas doesn't choke away another game, Dallas
I guess
winning would...
Technically speaking, it's bigger for the Eagles to win against the Cowboys because that's the division one. A loss to the Niners, but a win against the Cowboys would be really close to locking up
The division.
Yeah. Because they'd have a 3-game lead with 4 games left. And 2 of those games against the Giants, who are actively going to be trying to lose. Not the players, but, they're going to be looking to maybe get their quarterback.
So,
no offense, Tommy DeVito. Yeah.
So I'll finish the Eagles for you. 2 things. First, I feel like I tell it to you pretty straight when I feel like the Eagles are or are not being shortchanged.
Yeah.
Or that they should have a reason to be angry or not angry.
No.
I feel like I give that to you pretty straight. I'm 100% on your side when it comes to the 49ers stuff. I thought the reactions during and after that game, through the entire offseason and the beginning of this season, were just ridiculous to me, that the players just couldn't let it go. I don't get into the fan stuff because I'm not an Eagles fan, so I don't hang out with them. And Eagles fans piss me off.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it's tough to be a non-Eagles fan in and around Philadelphia and Philadelphia social media. I mostly roll my eyes, or I usually text you and be like, "This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, look at this. This is stupid. This is why people don't like you." That's what I do. But I also said I'll be like, "Look at these idiots when it comes to Penn State." Like I'll send you this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, we
From a
do
Penn
that.
State
We
fan.
do that.
We just do that. We're open and honest about that stuff. But I am with you on that when it comes to the 49ers stuff. I don't have a horse in the race. It doesn't matter to me next week. But when I look at it, the motivating factors, I just don't understand the 49ers attempting to disrespect Philadelphia for the way things went down last year and just the constant whining that happened. So that was just whatever. And they get to settle on the field this week, and maybe they'll be setting up something in the playoffs this year.
Right.
If the 49ers want any chance of hosting that game, they need to win this
I told you,
week.
all I want is the Eagles to win the last time they play the
Right,
Niners.
exactly. Yeah, we talk
Whatever
about
the
that
last
all the
one,
time.
whatever the last time is, I want them to win that one.
Just like Harrisburg.
That's right.
Manheim Township. But the other thing about the Eagles, and this is actually what started this entire conversation, they're 10-1, but they do not look like a 10-1 team. And there's 2 ways to splice that, and it all has to be like, are you an optimist or a realist / pessimist, as they always get grouped together? Because I always tell people I'm a realist, and my sister yells at me, "No, you're a pessimist." Well, whatever. Maybe they're the same thing. And honestly, I think you fall into the more realistic, pessimistic camp than optimistic camp. Like there are people online that, despite seeing the way the Eagles have played of late, getting all those wins, know that they're not playing great right now.
Right.
They're still winning, which is what the optimists will say. It's still got the win. And you're right. That is all that matters.
Right.
As long as you get the W, it doesn't matter.
Especially in the NFL.
But as a realist pessimist, I look at that. That's going to catch up to you.
Eventually.
Yep. Now, maybe it'll be in the regular season. It won't really matter. But it could happen in the playoffs, too. So as someone who stresses and gets anxious about their sports teams, which I know you know nothing about that, right,
I'm
Justin?
calm, cool, collected all the time.
If I was an Eagles fan right now, I'd be sitting there and be like, we're 10-1, leading the NFC East, have a 2-game lead in the conference, and I feel like we look like crap.
See, I still am like, okay, I felt like first half was not good.
Right.
Second half and overtime were fine. Now, the defense couldn't get stops, but the defense was banged up and just gassed because of the terrible first half. Last week, I felt like the defense... Well, I mean, I know they got lucky with some drops, but at the same time, Kansas City has had drops all year. Like, that's not like an aberration for them this year. But I look at things too, and I'm just like, yes, yeah. So let me back up. I agree with you. Like, when you watch them play, I wouldn't be like, yes, this is absolutely a 10-1 team, or that this team is 2 games clear of everyone in the NFL in terms of the record. The optimist in me is like,
we're not playing our best and we're still winning.
Right, and they're finding ways to win. Now, like, you can argue Monday night they got lucky. But they also held, like, and some of that was Chiefs drops.
Kansas City
didn't score in the second half.
They hadn't scored in 3.5 quarters into today's game against the Raiders.
So there's that. And at the same time, they were able to score on a Chiefs defense that hasn't been giving up a lot of points. So like, I'm like, it's not like, Pat Mahomes was running back and like kneeling in the end zone for safeties, and that's the only reason we were able to score. Now, did they get some lucky like breaks by them not catching the ball? 100%, absolutely. But I look at things today, and like today's a perfect example. They didn't play great to start the game, but they played much better. The defense, while not great, held them to field goals a couple times. Blocked the field goal once, held them to a field goal like late in the in overtime to give your team a chance. So like while not ideal, they were good enough, and then the offense got it together, and Buffalo was having trouble stopping the offense. And so it got right, and just so happens after they go on and win the game after Stephon Diggs and. What's the tight end? Gabe something for them.
No, Gabe Davis.
Gabe Davis and Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs are, mocking the Eagles fly thing like to the sideline and all that stuff, and then they lost.
Before the game's over.
Right.
How stupid some of these people are.
But yes. So I look at it as the Eagles have a long way to go. But I'm like, they can play a lot better. They were also playing without Lane Johnson today. So, and that kind of came out of nowhere, right? So if you're going to tell me, oh, they struggle early, well, okay. I can understand because you're losing your best lineman. I love Jason Kelce, but Lane Johnson is better at right tackle than Kelce is at center, even though Kelce is a Hall of Fame center. They have two, in my opinion, they have two guys right now who are Hall of Famers on that line at center and at right tackle. And it's just, while it was very frustrating, they did not play well, but they did enough to hang in there.
Right.
And then next thing you know, it starts to go. And it kind of becomes one of those things. And is it exactly the same as this? No, but I feel like it's starting to maybe be that way a little bit. They used to talk about how just that pressure of when you're playing and Tiger is close to you, and Tiger's making a move and he's just hanging around, and then the pressure would get to some of the other people. I feel like if the Eagles are hanging around and then something doesn't happen, you miss a field goal if you're the Bills, and then all of a sudden you think, oh man, now the Eagles have a chance. Just kind of one of those things. But yes, they need to play better to get to their ultimate goals, right? They need to be able to play better to get to their ultimate goal, which is winning the Super Bowl.
It's just not the way they're winning is not sustainable.
No,
and there's two ways that can go. They can go bad and they can start losing, or they can go back to the team that people think they are and start winning easier.
Right.
Now,
right. Exactly.
And we talked. They have a tough stretch of games. So are you going to beat those other very good to great teams as easily as you should be beating the Giants and the Commanders? Though both Washington games were a bit of a struggle.
Right.
And you didn't play New York yet, right? You played 2 of their last 3?
Yeah,
the Giants.
We haven't played New York yet.
So, I mean, if you can get through this gauntlet of 7 out of 8 crazy games, and you're, 5-0 right now in those.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I was saying going into the crazy stretch, I'm win as many of these games, because if you go 3-3 in the 6-game stretch, or you go 2-4 in the 6-game stretch, at least you'll be, in a good spot because you won your other games. Well, they lost that Jets game, and I'm like, oh no, here we go, because they're entering that stretch, and then they were able to actually get it moving. So, that's why the game today is big. Why? Because you play the Niners and the Cowboys in the next 2 weeks. So winning this game is a huge game.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm big Bills fan. Hope they can win some games the rest of the way, specifically against the Cowboys. Big Dolphins fan. Hope they can beat. Hope they can beat the Cowboys.
I hate to burst your bubble, but I am a huge Cowboys fan this week. I had my throwback mid-90s Emmitt Smith jersey on for Thanksgiving football on Thursday. I didn't feel like there was a better jersey to wear. I did. Shouldn't surprise you whatsoever. I did over the last few weeks look for a Kelly Green, Jason Kelsey jersey, unavailable in unless I want women's cut. I don't think I'd look great in women's cut, so I'll just hold off for maybe a deal later down the line. I have a Kelly Green Randall Cunningham jersey from the 90s. Doubt that fits anymore. Do know where it is, so I could pull that out, but don't think that one's going to fly. Don't think it's going to fly. So let's just quickly breeze through a few of these other games. I was trying to find this thing that Greg sent us of. So apparently there was a false alarm fire at the NFL Red Zone headquarters with
you
Scott
could
Hansen.
hear the alarm going off.
Well, it was the TV was on. Kelly and I were up having dinner. The girls were downstairs in the room with the television, but not paying attention. And they started to hear the fire alarm on the TV, but didn't realize it was coming from the TV. Because it's like a Scott Hansen in the studio. Why would there be a fire alarm noise coming from the TV? And they kept hearing it. And I had seen it on my phone that this was happening, but I didn't make the connection that that's what they're hearing because they were complaining that they're hearing this alarm sound, but they can't figure out where it's coming from. And I unfortunately missed the broadcast of it live, but apparently he was not refusing to leave, but he wasn't sure he
wasn't leaving. And then there's all right, we've been told we have to leave. We're going to the closest game, which is the Eagles-Cowboys.
And it'll just be there.
Right.
Eagles-Bills.
Yeah, sorry, Eagles-Bills.
Now, of course, the internet is having a field day with this. And the standard one, and one that I send you, I feel like once a month, is the comic dog sitting in the room with stuff on fire.
Yes.
And he's saying, "This is fine." That was Scott Hansen in the studios during NFL Red Zone. There was no fire. It was a false alarm. But also, someone slapped the NFL Red Zone logo on the sinking Titanic and made Scott Hansen the part of the string quartet playing as the boat is sinking. Great stuff. The internet remains undefeated for things like that. When it comes to memes and jokes, internet is a great place. When it comes to everything else, it's pretty much a terrible place. So, NFL fandom, so trying to navigate the waters of conflicting NFL fandoms is something to behold for sure. It makes you want to wash your eyes out with bleach. But here we are at the end of week 12. And some other scores of note. Colts pull out the win at home against Tampa Bay, 27-20. The Giants beat New England. The Patriots missed a field goal at the end of the game to tie it and force overtime. New England is now, are they 2-9?
Yeah.
5-12, not looking so bad now, is it?
I'll let you handle that email.
Are they getting to 5-12? Is that a realistic spot for them to get to? They host the Chargers. They go to Pittsburgh. They host the Chiefs. They go to Denver. They go to Buffalo. They host the Jets.
I don't know.
So that's 6 games left to go. They shouldn't beat the Chargers. They shouldn't beat the Steelers. They shouldn't beat the Chiefs. They shouldn't beat the Broncos. They shouldn't beat the Bills. I'd say push with the Jets. Now, not to say they can't win any of those other 5 games, but that'd be a 3-14 season. Whew.
Yeah.
That is unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. And is Mac Jones the quarterback?
No.
Bailey Zappi's the guy? Huh?
No, he's. Oh, I mean, he is the rest of the season, I think.
Zappy?
Yeah.
Pittsburgh post Canada fired this week.
First time they've gotten over 400 yards in 52 games or something like that.
16-10 win over the Burrow-less Cincinnati Bengals. Big win for Pittsburgh. Conference and divisional game that gets them in a good spot here towards the latter half of the season, working towards the playoffs. Tennessee holds off Carolina 17-10.
That was an awful game.
Jacksonville squeaks by the Texans. That's only their second win against Houston in their last 12 tries.
Well, Houston would have had the same record and won both games against them because they won in week 1 against them.
They did, surprising everyone.
Yes.
And they were about 6 inches short of forcing overtime. Matt Amendola's 58-yard field goal clangs off the crossbar and goes the wrong direction. Jacksonville wins 24-21, and I believe up until the Kansas City win, they were the number 1 seed in the AFC. Chiefs won, I believe that bumped them up, and we already talked about it. If the Ravens win, I believe the Ravens will move up to the number 1 seed. NFC South. Speaking of dumpster fires and terrible games, the NFC South is quite the division. The Falcons are now in the driver's seat.
I got
after
that one today.
Their win over New Orleans to take both teams to 5-6 on the season. I still think it'll be one of those two teams winning. I believe we discussed it last week. I believe I had it to go New Orleans, Atlanta, 1-2. So we'll see what happens. But the Saints had 5 field goals. That's it. No touchdowns from the Saints offense today. And Desmond Ridder at times looked great and at times looked terrible.
Yep.
The Rams destroyed the Cardinals 37-14. Huge day from my fantasy running back coming off of IR, Kyron Williams. The Broncos, as we mentioned a few times already, 5 winners of 5 in a row after the win today against Cleveland at or in the Mile High City, 29-12. Did you see that hit that forced?
So I did, and from the one angle, you can see how he slides up and does hit him because I mean he got a bloody lip from it.
Yeah, I did see that after the
concussion.
fact, but like watching that live, I was like, that was a clean hit.
They threw the flag because he got hit too hard. Like that is absolutely why they threw the flag.
Which I don't like, but I also understand trying to protect your investments in the quarterbacks. But I don't know. What do you tell that guy to do? Like how would he have slowed down? It's not like it was 2 seconds after the whistle and it was an illegal hit. Like, would you see the TJ Watt one earlier this afternoon where he hit him like 3 seconds after the ball was thrown?
Yeah.
I don't know if he didn't realize it was thrown or what, because I don't associate TJ Watt with like cheap shots. Because that was clearly, so I don't know. I have no idea, but that one was certainly a flag. I did not think the one in the Denver-Cleveland game should have been flagged, but obviously it was because that's where we're at. We talked at length about Buffalo, Philadelphia, or at least about the Eagles, but hey, and we've known this for a long time. You win because of Josh Allen, and you can lose because of Josh Allen, and you saw both of those in the game today.
Yeah, I thought he did fine. I feel like in that game he did about like all you can expect him to do. He had the bad pick. Yeah, that was a bad pick. But like the rest of it, I felt like he did what he could do. Like they couldn't stop the Eagles in the second half. Well, no, that's not true. They stopped them, I think, in the first drive of the second half. But like after that, I feel like they couldn't stop them, or at least consistently. Yeah, they were just was a little off. Like, man, they seemingly could get what they wanted. Like, I don't. It was a very Bills. I just sent you some.
Yeah, well, I'll let you read that since you just sent it to me.
Yeah, so
about the Bills-Eagles game.
Right. So when you look at it, the Bills are the 40th team since the 1970 merger to have 500 yards, 10 third down conversions, and a positive turnover margin in a game. They're the first team to lose in that scenario. Teams were 39-0 entering that scenario.
Sorry, I'm trying not to shed a tear over that.
Yeah.
Over that result.
Now, at the same time, like I think it's now something like 13 or 14 games in a row that if Jalen Hurts has been trailing by double digits, he's won. Like that's absurd. And also, he is now again is like 13 or 14. He's won like 13 or 14 in a row in the regular season against teams with a winning record.
It's a pretty good start to a career.
Yeah, like he's again, he was shaky in the beginning, but the whole team was. Like they were not getting it done in the first half. But he puts the team on his shoulders, man. Yeah, I'm happy with the outcome today, but I'm just like I just feel like and I know they still have a long way to go, and it's hard to see when you're playing these great teams, but like, you know what? Keep getting better, or keep working to get better and get wins along the way. Like, okay, we'll take it.
So the Ravens-Chargers game 7-3, nearing halftime. Baltimore does have the ball.
This is an ultimate ball don't lie kind of situation because Lamar, I believe, had the first down on third down rush, and they spotted it short, and then they got stuffed on fourth down when they split Lamar out wide. And then 2 plays later, the Chargers fumble. So,
So the only other game we didn't really talk about was Chiefs at Raiders. Las Vegas actually jumped out to a 14-0 lead.
Right.
And everyone's talking about what's wrong with the Chiefs. And, oh, man, Antonio Pierce taking over the Raiders. This looks like a sure bet. And then the Chiefs outscored them 31-3 the rest of the way to win 31-17.
including points in the second half for the Chiefs.
And I had mentioned that they had, up until they scored, after the Raiders went up 14-0, they hadn't scored a point in 3.5 quarters. Almost an entire game had gone by since they had scored a point. But in the end, it didn't matter. Today they get to win 31-17. So that's where we're at. Ravens-Chargers happening right now, almost at halftime. Bears-Vikings tomorrow night. That'll be the end of NFL Week 12. Week 13 is next weekend, starting Thursday night with the Seahawks-Cowboys game. Huge game for Seattle.
Go Seattle.
After the way they've played of late. Haven't looked great. This would be a huge statement win for Dallas, who is kind of, having the same type of season Miami has, that both teams are beating the teams that they expect to beat, and then the teams that it should be a battle, they're losing. So we'll see what happens for Seattle-Dallas on Thursday. And then you won't be here next week because you get the joy of watching an Iowa football game.
That's right.
You'll be
Iowa, Michigan.
in Indianapolis to
I said
watch.
I want the opposite of the I hope both teams have fun.
Hope both teams
I hope
have
both
a
teams
terrible time.
have no fun.
Here, I'll put you on the spot. Who are you cheering for? Or do you want to see Iowa win?
So I have come to the realization I could find joy in Iowa winning, and that is I'm not rooting for Iowa, but like I could find joy in that just because it would be funny. Like it would be funny to see Michigan lose to a team that they have no business losing to.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, it's better for Penn State if Michigan wins.
Right.
So I'm fine with it. Like while I don't want Michigan to win, I'm fine if they do because that is a better. Like honestly, if Iowa wins, Penn State will not go to a New Year's Six game.
Well, I saw they were
not
left out of predictions where they're at now at 10-2. In the AP top 10, 10-2, not going to a New Year's Six. They had Ole Miss in over us.
I don't think Ole Miss will. And by the way, Ole Miss Mississippi State was a 17-10 game, and everybody's like, when it's the SEC, everybody's like, oh, the defense is great. And when it's Iowa and Nebraska, people are like, oh, these teams are terrible. You know, like.
What I don't get is Ole Miss is also 10-2, I believe, but their 2 losses were destructions. Like they weren't even close, I believe.
No.
I think they lost by 3 or 4 or more touchdowns to, I'm guessing, Alabama and Georgia, or maybe LSU.
I think it was Alabama and Georgia.
So
No, they had to play LSU.
they were probably to LSU then.
How about? And I know the divisions are going away for a lot of the conferences, but like, how about Georgia and Alabama never play in the regular season? How ridiculous is that? Like,
well, oh man, we could do an entire show on college football realignment and whatnot. So, well, we are approaching the holidays, which means, like, unfortunately, we're at the latter stages of college football in the NFL.
Yeah.
In a few months from now, when football's over, we get to play our college football game, which I know our loyal listeners absolutely love when we do that. But I'm only bringing that up because, Justin, in about 7 months, we can play a new college football
nuts
game.
is that?
So looking forward to that. We might have to throw that in there when that comes out. It usually comes out, I think, in July, like early mid-July. So we'll see if that's on schedule. I haven't heard a lot about it. I know there's some NIL student athletes are trying to milk it for more than what the discussion was. If they end up ruining it, people are going to freak out. So we'll see how that goes. I think there are also a handful of teams that are also playing hardball. I know Notre Dame was one of them. I don't know if that's been resolved or not, but I'm excited for that to come out. It was supposed to come out this past summer, but they delayed it. So hopefully the delay was worth it. Hope they get everything into it aesthetically. You know, Jersey Stadium songs, all the traditions. That's what made that game so much fun. But also the gameplay. People just don't want it to be a clone of Madden.
Right.
Which I have not played enough Madden over the last 6-7 years to really care about that one way or the other.
So I get it, but at the same time, like in Madden, you can set it so that you can play like it used to be. Like, you know, you don't have to play it. You know, you don't have to use all the crazy controls, and you know what I mean. Like, you don't need to do that if you don't want to.
Sure. So, all right. So anyways, you won't be here next week. You will be, I guess, will you be on your way home, or is the game late?
I should be home on Sunday.
Oh, right. It's Saturday.
Right. Yeah, I should be home, but like I don't. there's no guarantees.
No guarantees. Which means I'm doing this show not by myself because I don't like to do that. Mr. Paul Roberts will be joining me on Sunday. So Paul will be on here to talk about the end of the college football season, and I'm sure we'll talk plenty of NFL action as well. Things will definitely be much clearer in terms of the bowl games, the New Year's Six, the CFP. A lot of that stuff may be finalized.
It should be, yeah.
By that point in time. And obviously huge games across the NFL starting Thursday and rolling right through Sunday evening when we get to discuss here. So, yeah, Paul and I on the show, episode 387 next Sunday night, normal time, 8:30, jmnjrradio.com or across our social media platforms. Anything else to add from you, Justin?
Go Birds. No, I don't have anything else, but
I think that's about it. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Christmas Day, just 4 weeks from tomorrow is Christmas Day. So we are in the thick of the holiday season. Best time of the year. Enjoy it. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving, and hope everyone enjoyed this show. And we'll be back in 1 week's time for the next one. So for Justin Raffoff, I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop. Woo-hoo! You can watch each weekly episode live on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. You can also rate and review us on many of these platforms as well. We'd love to hear from you. Send your emails to the Mays Sandwich Shop inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is a part of the JMNJR Radio Network, home to other productions such as The Bulldog Hour, Tangents with Friends, and Nat Chats with Dad. Until next time.